Assalamualaikum, everyone. Today is August 1st, 2021. Welcome to Wall Street to Bay Street, Sunday Chai with Sharia Portfolio Canada. My name is Nadeem Mian.
And my name is Shamil. Let's get rolling and get right into the markets. We have a lot of news this week, a lot of exciting news in terms of the markets. So let's get right into it here. First thing on the agenda is corporate earnings were released. So Nadine, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with that?
Sure, it was a big week for corporate earnings. About 175 companies of the S&P 500 reported this week. And, we were talking about a lot of the big names, the heavy hitters, especially some of the FANG stocks. So in general, it's been a pretty positive earnings season. Based on this chart here that you see from Bloomberg and FactSet, you can see that about 90% of the companies so far reported are actually beating the street estimates. Seeing similar numbers on the sales side, about 88% of companies right now have been beating the analyst expectation. But specifically, if we dive right in, we take, starting with some of the bellwether technology companies, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, they all reported this week. And, the message for the most part was, record number earnings. They topped analyst expectations. However, guidance was kind of a little bit of I guess you could say, cloudy, or I would say uncertain. Like, for example, Apple shares, the demand for iPhones and iPads and services, really kind of drove the quarter. And, the number of iPads and the number of items basically sold for the quarter were higher than what the market expected, even what the company had expected. However, the company didn't provide any sales guidance. And, that's a trend that has obviously started on the onset of the pandemic. But nonetheless, if you take the shares kind of didn't really pop or anything, on the results. Similar results, similar kind of reaction with Microsoft. Results were clouded by concerns over slowing growth in their software giant Azure's cloud computing business. Although the company, despite that, the company did have beating on the sales and the profit for a 10th straight quarter. So, again, similar to Apple, great numbers. However, outlook was just kind of not exactly, the outlook wasn't exactly of a huge home run, or rather, I should say, there was no guidance in some cases, right? Same thing with Facebook. We saw Facebook kind of sell off. Even today, Amazon came out on Friday, and we saw shares dip on that as, again, the guidance going forward wasn't what the market expected. One good news that I can kind of point out is some of the semiconductors did do really well, specifically Qualcomm, which actually is a holding in some of our portfolios. Qualcomm saw demand and revenue up in basically in every category. They did obviously more. They did, talk about some of the supply constraints, but the situation is changing, and the CEO expects material improvement in supply by the end of the year. That's really kind of what the message he drove during the earnings call that they had. So overall, this Qualcomm did give a bullish quarterly forecast, helped by the growth of 5G networks and some of the other businesses that they have, such as Internet of Things. So overall, the Qualcomm, if you notice, not only did they come out with great present numbers, they also provided a strong outlook, and the stock obviously reacted positively to that.
Perfect. It'll be interesting to see, how this continues going forward. But the next topic in the agenda is, the Federal Reserve had a pretty important meeting this week. So why don't you shed some light on kind of what's going on over there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, while the federal officials did signal that they are moving closer to when they can actually start reducing massive support for the U.S. economy, they did say that they're not there yet. To quote Federal Jerome Powell, he said, we see ourselves as having some ground to cover to get there. That's what the chairman said after, during the press conference. So right now, the FOMC, they did hold their interest rates in the range near zero, and they maintain that the asset purchases at 120 billion a month is going to continue. But again, we're always talking about guidance here, and so the market really is kind of looking at when is the tapering kind of going to begin.
Perfect. And Nadeem and I are Canadian, so there is some exciting news. The Stats Canada did come out with the GDP numbers recently. So Nadeem, why don't you tell us a little more about that as well?
Sure. Canada's economy did come back to life in the second quarter as vaccine-led reopenings really helped the growth of the economy. So StatsCan reported that GDP grew at 0.7% in the month of June after a 0.3% drop in May. So May's decline was in line with what the market the market expectation was. And so, what this really is just kind of showing is that there is a rebound factor going on here. Growth right now is on pace to come around at 2.5% in the quarter on an annualized basis. This is actually in line with a lot of the Bay Street economists' numbers, but it's actually ahead of what the Bank of Canada's forecast is, which is 2% for the 3-month period. The GDP report shows that the Canadian economy has been pretty resilient, which has proved that it can bounce back from the COVID restrictions, especially in Ontario, since it's such a service-related sector. And what we're basically seeing is that with vaccination rates rising and cases coming down, economists are really kind of bullish on the second half of the year.
Perfect. And the last topic in the agenda today is probably a fan favorite. We did see a lot of volatility in the Bitcoin market as well as the Chinese market. So why don't you expand a little more on that?
Yeah, sure. So the week started off with the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, having a surge on Monday, and that was led by really an Amazon job posting of a crypto position, and it kind of led to market speculating that Amazon is kind of on the verge of maybe adopting crypto as a form of payment, right? So that really kind of drove Bitcoin to about 40,000, just on Monday alone. This is basically after 4 consecutive. As we end the month of July now, for the month of July, Bitcoin, for example, is up for the month. However, you've had 4 consecutive down months prior to that. So you can also make the argument that, with this severe correction, one kind of good news that gave life into the crypto world created this big bounce back that really kind of finished off the week. Now, the other volatility headline has been China as of late. Specifically, what the government of China is doing in terms of cracking down on some of the US listed ADRs that are trading here. And a lot of those are technology based. And so what we have seen, for example, is some of the ETFs, these China-based ETFs like the FXI, actually hit a 52-week low this week. And the market is really just kind of weighing in on the risk that is associated with the government kind of unilaterally, making some type of a crackdown on these. So, I mean, obviously it's an ongoing situation, and the market's obviously going to keep a close eye on that.
Perfect. And that it's going to be interesting to see how Bitcoin kind of goes going forward. And that is all the topics we have today. So once again, from Nadeem and I, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for bringing your chai with you as well. And hopefully we'll see you next week. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and we'll be happy to answer them. And once again, thank you.
Hey, assalamu alaikum.
Nadeem Mian, Portfolio Manager, registered as an advising representative, and Shamil Devji, Financial Advisor, registered as a dealing representative with Sharia Portfolio Canada Inc., a portfolio manager registered in the provinces of Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. Their opinions and statements expressed in this show are their personal opinions and do not necessarily reflect those of Sharia Portfolio. They are effective as of the date of this broadcast only and are subject to change. This discussion is for general information purposes only and is not investment advice.